So you've trained your butt off, you've had a great training cycle, and the day of reckoning is coming, the powerlifting meet, okay? It could be your first powerlifting meet. You could have done a few and not done your best. And as you guys have been watching my channel before, you see that a lot of these athletes are doing their best in meets. It's not like they train, hit certain big numbers and don't put them on the platform. They hit bigger numbers on the platform in the meets. So Adam Pine had a good post about this on Instagram, and he put some great points, and I've had a lot of emails about this lately, how to adequately get ready the day of the powerlifting meet, not how to prepare so much for it, but actually be ready on the day. So first, let's just get the basics out. Sleep. It's very important to sleep. This should be obvious. I mean, you want to get a good night's sleep, so and try to stick to a somewhat normal schedule. So normally if you're going to bed at 11 o'clock at night, don't try to go to bed at 6 p.m. the day of the meet. You want to make it somewhat of a normal schedule. The meet of the week, I would suggest kicking the stimulants. You're going to sleep better, and then if you take stimulants the day of the meet, you're going to feel like your first time all over, like a raging bull, okay? Stick to your normal morning routine and habits, okay? So if you normally wake up, you pray, you meditate or something, don't wake up the day of the meet and listen to headbanger music and start banging heads on the wall or something. Do your normal morning routine. It brings you it's a habit, it brings you comfort, etc., things like that. And of course, you want to avoid new supplements and new nutritional protocols like the day of the meet. So if you've been eating Steak and Shake, Taco Bell, McDonald's is kind of like your meal plan, I wouldn't suggest not trying organic rice and chicken the day of the meet. Stick to what you've been doing. Don't try to totally, do a 180 and turn over a leaf the day of your night. A new supplement, I mean, think about it. If you take, creatine, for some people, can cause diarrhea. So if you've never taken it before you take the day of the meet, it could be a crappy meet, pun intended. Okay, so now with weight cuts, I would avoid weight cuts unless there's, some huge title you're after, like, a world record or some big deal. If you're starting out in powerlifting, I would avoid weight cuts. You want to get as strong as possible, okay? And if you are going to weight cut because you have a good reason to do so, you're going for a record or some kind of huge title, be realistic in it, because a lot of times, someone might compete in the 198s, but they train at 223, and all of a sudden they're hitting these huge numbers in training and it never actually transfers on the platform. So if you do weight cuts, you need to know how much the weight cut's going to affect you. If your strength takes a 5% hit, that's fine, but it needs to be factored in your attempt selection. You can't live in fantasy land. You need to be your best on the platform and know what actually happens. So but I suggest keeping your weight up because you want to be confident, go in there, hit your numbers, hit big numbers, keep beating yourself over and over, eventually beat everybody else. Okay, so warm-ups. Warm-ups for a meet, you don't want to change, you don't want to do something totally different. So if you've normally, you start your squats off with a bar, you don't want to start them off at 315 at the meet. You want to stick to your routine, but do it within reason. So we joked before about how a lot of bodybuilders, they like to only do jumps 45s, 25s, 45 quarter, okay? And a powerlifting meet, a lot of times it's going to be reality. So you want to plan your warm-ups at, like with 45s and 25s, okay? So, you'd mimic it. So normally if your last warm-up is on bench press 370, with the 25s, it might be 365s. If you're fortunate enough to be at a meet where they have all the small plates there, then you can obviously adjust accordingly. And then you also need to be adaptable to the meet conditions. What do I mean by that? Right here in Texas, it's, today it's 30 degrees outside, but in the summertime, I've been to many meets where it's over 105 degrees and they do not have air conditioning. So you're gonna warm up differently from that, where today when it's 30 degrees, if they had no heat, you'd warm up more, you'd warm up less. So you have to be somewhat adaptable to the weather conditions. You also have to be adaptable to the pace of the meet. A lot of the USAPL and IPF meets, the full meet can be over in 2.5, 3 hours. Other meets with a lot of lifters, single platform, might take 12 hours. So the way you're gonna warm up is going to be a little bit different, so you have to be somewhat adaptable. Okay, now let's get into the actual attempts. For squat, okay, so squat, if you have something that works for you, you need to stick with that. Okay, so so I'm giving these tips right now, but you have something, you keep hitting PRs, you're hitting more than you do in training, stick with what you're doing. But squat, okay, so is your chance to get in the meet. Okay, so you want to set and your opener is going to set the tone. You got to get in the meet. So in this goal should be the most conservative of all your goals. You know why? Because you have a whole meet ahead of you. So on a squat, on your final attempt, if you grind it out and you're like, say, especially you're squatting real heavy weights, say you hit a PR, you know, of 905 on the squat, you ground it out, took 6 seconds to complete, you could be wiped out for a couple weeks from that, let alone pull a PR deadlift later in the day. Or if you would have took 890, it would have gone up a lot easier and you would have had a better meet total. So that being said, you want to be the most conservative in your goals for the squats for that reason. Openers, again, set the tone for the meet. They also set the tone for judging. If you see somebody, if a judge sees you bury your opener, do it with just a commanding overall just of the lift, they're going to be much more likely to be somewhat more lenient in the future than if you barely hit depth and grind it out. So you really want to make sure you're hitting that right there. So opener, a good place to start is anywhere from 89 to 92% of your goal for the meet. So an easy triple. Okay, a lot of times you can adjust the warm-ups at the last minute. So, you know, if something like that happens, you might want to adjust it down to 89% if you're more towards the 92%. So 89 to 92% is a good place to open. Second attempt. Okay, this is, you want to give you more in the 94 to 97% area right here. So what the second attempt does is it builds confidence. This should be, and for some of you more advanced lifters competed before, this is a good place to hit a small PR on your second attempt. Like, you know, if your PR on the squat is 303, you go for 308 before going for more on the third attempt. This needs to be a slam dunk though. You need to hit that second attempt. It's going to set you up for your third attempt. So the third attempt is going to be anywhere from 98% of your initial goal for the meet to 102%. That's going to be depending on how you feel. You have to be somewhat adaptable here. And that attempt should be based off the speed and the mastery of the second attempt. And remember, these are not the 10 commandments. These are just some guidelines. Okay, so for bench press, we can open up that goal a little more. The squat's the hardest part of the meet. You screw up on the squat, that's gonna wipe you out for the rest of the meet. If you screw up on the bench press, it's probably not gonna wipe you out super bad for the deadlift. So we can be a little more aggressive in our goal setting there. And we'll use the same guideline for attempt selection as the squats. Okay, so deadlift. Now here's where things, you know, I also should give some credit here. Ogden, Michael Bust, and Adam Pine were both instrumental in talking about these percentages, but here's where I changed a little bit, was on deadlift. Okay, so deadlift, you gotta stay in the meet. So you nail your opener. You've done a lot. You've already done bench, you've already done squat. And deadlift is a very emotional lift. This is people that got the cojones to do a lot. You know, they really do some big things here. It's a very emotional lift, especially if it's conventional deadlift. So attempt one, we're gonna go a little bit lower, 88 to 91%. Okay. Attempt two, we're going 95 to 98%. Attempt three, we're going 97 to 104% because, you know, a deadlift's an emotional lift. Even when guys are doing 800-900 pounds, a lot of times they hit huge PRs in deadlift and get huge carryover compared to like what they would in the bench or the squat. So that in mind, be smart on your second attempt. You have to be ready for your third attempt. But if you're one of those lifters, you've done a bunch of meets, and it seems like you always gas out over and over and over, you can't hit a third attempt. At some point, we got to come back to reality. Say, hey, I always, you know, I can work on my work capacity and all that stuff, but I seem to, at this point in time, I'm probably gonna gas out my third attempt. Then you have to take a bigger jump in your second and kind of ride off your third and look at it as more of like a two meet thing, okay? And then furthermore on the deadlift, on the third attempts, you might need to adjust it to be competitive, because if it's like a championship type of meet, you're competing against a bunch of other lifters, that's again where some of that variances of when you're actually gonna have to be competitive and adjust your attempts as long as you know what else is going on. Okay, so let's talk a little about your nerves. It's totally normal to be nervous going into a powerlifting meet, but nerves, harnessed correctly, are gonna fuel, as long as they don't overtake you completely, they're gonna fuel your performance. If you don't feel a little something in your gut, you probably shouldn't be doing this, because you're investing a lot of time, money, and all this into your training, and potentially, you know, it's not as safe as like, you know, doing Nautilus circuit at the YMCA. So you wanna make sure, you know, if you have that feeling for it to keep going. So you wanna stay as relaxed as possible, but then when it's go time, you wanna hit the gas. So having a coach or a training partner with you can be very helpful in keeping you calm and then getting you ready to go when it's go time. Okay, so finally, at the meet, introduce yourself to people. Powerlifting is a very friendly sport. And you know, you go to like a Golden Gloves boxing tournament, in the semifinals, you don't see competitors cheering for each other. They're gonna be fighting later that night or the next day. But in powerlifting, everybody's very nice. It's a very nice community. So you wanna really make, you know, you can make friends there. I think Adam Pine said it best. He said you will get some carryover at the meet if you've done everything correctly, but you're not gonna add 100 pounds to your deadlift. So be wise in these attempt selections. Remember what I taught you here is just some guidelines, not the 10 commandments, but I keep getting emails about this question, so I thought it'd be easier just to put it in a video format for everybody. So have a good day, and to big lifting.